I see so much self-rejection when I talk to writers, or they'll be like, I'm not going to query her because I don't know if it like perfectly fits her manuscript wish list. And I feel like whenever I'm talking to people like that, my mission is always just to like push them to like send queries anyway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another You May Contribute a Verse. I'm Josh Munkin, sharing the co-host chair, or sharing the two chairs with my co-host, Brenna Jenneret, alongside our podcast wizard, John Seymour, and we have the exquisite pleasure of bringing you an exquisite conversation today. Singular, or at least rare, opportunity today to listen to an interview with someone to whom probably most of us, including both of the co-hosts of this here podcast, most of us have submitted to today's guest. Adria Goetz is our guest today. She is an agent at KT Literary and an absolute delight to speak to. So a word from our sponsor and benefactor, Tealmore Press. Tealmore Press is a small independent children's book publisher who you have probably heard on this here podcast before. And I want to call out a couple of recent releases as well as one upcoming release. So if you are not yet aware, I would go and check out both Supermoon as well as Naked, two recent releases from Tealmore. And upcoming is the picture book Fungi Are More Than Mushrooms. And I'm actually not sure if it's supposed to be fungi or fungi, or if it's one of those GIF confusing bits of the English language. Fungi Are More Than Mushrooms is coming out in March of this year. So as the podcast releases, so it'll be about a month and a half or maybe 2 months until we see this one. Fungi Are More Than Mushrooms. Discover how spores disperse, fungi grow, animals find food, bees heal themselves, and trees communicate, all thanks to fungi and this fascinating kingdom. So again, this is out in March. Fungi Are More Than Mushrooms is by Alicia Gabriel and Vivian Sarkani. First 2025 release from Tealmore Press. And now is the time where I will get out of the way of the rest of this episode, and I really hope you enjoy our conversation with Adria Goetz. Speaking of your client books, though, I just have to get this out of the way early. Mongolian Deathworms has been, which you repped a couple years ago, was such a sleeper hit in my household. I did not expect for my daughter to continually ask to read that on my phone. So well done there on that one. And a number of your other books.
That's a quirky one. That one actually, like, I represent that author, but that was a book she sold with her first agent, Clelia Gore. And then Clelia left agenting, and then and we were at the same agency, so I kind of inherited her as a client, which I felt really lucky because her style is so cool. Like, her art she uses potato stamps and paint, and like that's it to create what she creates. It's cool. It's so amazing. But yeah, it's very cool.
And this is, I'm trying to get her name right. This is Sandra Faye. That's right.
Sandra Faye.
Sorry,
yeah.
Sandra.
Sandra Faye, right. I was going to say, we got to shout out the author. Yeah. Gosh, I love that book too. So did my kid. And I actually have used it. I've been using it as a comp for a manuscript that I wrote, which is really fun because I just think that book is
so
like
wacky.
I don't know, it's like so good. Such a clever take. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, Adria, who are you as an agent? It's a very broad question, but it's nice to have you here, and we see you on Twitter and beyond a lot. But I'm just this is a big deep dive into who you are and how you think of yourself as an agent and how you rep your clients and all that. I guess we can start with where did you get started agenting?
Yeah, so I started at Mandin Literary, which is a Seattle-based agency. I am born and raised Pacific Northwest girl. Like, I love it here. I have known like my whole life that I did not want to leave, but I also wanted to work in publishing. And so I was like, how do I make both of these things work? Like, I know that if I moved to New York City would like chew me up and spit me out. Just fully eat me alive. And so when I learned about agenting, I was like, oh my gosh, I could work in publishing but still stay here and be around my family and really close with my sisters, my 3 sisters. So anyway, in college, I got an internship with Mandin Literary, which was local to me. And then basically I was like, there are not many opportunities like this to work in publishing and stay here in the Pacific Northwest. And so I just clung on for dear life and basically just was like, you're not getting rid of me. And so I was an intern there for 2 years and then graduated from the University of Washington and kind of stayed on part-time as an assistant to them. And then I went to the Columbia Publishing course in New York and came back from that and pitched myself as an agent. And so I started agenting there and was there as an agent, I think for 6 years. But my total time with them was almost a decade. So I feel like I really grew up there. And then I went to PS Literary for 1 year and then landed at KT Literary, which is where I'm at now. And I just love it's the best fit for me. The agency motto is nice people, great books, which I feel like sums up the agency. So many great books, but it's just the nicest, friendliest people. And I love the way that the agency does business. So very happy with where I've landed.
Maybe you said that. Sorry.
It's based in Colorado, but I'm still here in Washington State, and the agents at our agency are scattered all over the country.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Before we jumped on with you, Josh and I were just chatting back and forth about just strategy, I guess, in terms of an agent, yours specifically, because we both had seen the tweet that you put out on Twitter semi-recently about, picture books especially, right? Agents just don't have the bandwidth to take on that many. And if you're a new agent, you get filled up almost immediately. And then when you open, even for a little bit, you just get slammed with so many. And we saw your tweet that you had said, I'm sort of holding the ones that I think have potential or, are really good. And I might, refer them out. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Is that a strategy that you do often, or is that a new thing because it's so saturated? And do you think other agents are doing that also? What does that look like?
Yeah, I've always done that. I've always tried to give lots of referrals or try to connect people when I can. And it's just recently I'm known as a picture book agent. I think that's what I'm most known for in this industry. And so because of that, the picture book submissions I get are the cream of the crop. I see amazing picture books every single day, but I just don't have the bandwidth to take all of them on because I have a full roster of clients. I'm really only signing 1 or 2 clients a year at this point, but yet I receive, 5 submissions a year. So it's I'm seeing good stuff and it kills me that I can't take on every project that I fall in love with or every project that I know has so much potential. And so when I can make connections, I like to do that. And so, yeah, I just wanted to post something on Twitter just to see who is looking for picture book text, because most picture book agents kind of prefer to work with author illustrators for a lot of different reasons. And so I just wanted to get a sense for who was open to that. And so, yeah, but I mean, we at my agency, we have a Slack channel where we post queries that we see potential in, want to, see if anyone else would be the better fit for it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you sort of do inner agency sharing anyways, but then also this Twitter pitch was sort of a broader, hitting a broader audience. So you will share outside the agency as well, just to people that you have connections with or whatever. I feel picture book authors can take a little bit of solace in that. There's only so many places, and we know that, and the market is so saturated, and everyone has 1,000 picture book manuscripts, and it just is a miracle to get in. So it's nice to know that on the other end, you guys are aware of that too, and you're doing what you can to sort of put us in the right position to make that happen, even if you can't do it. So yeah, it's nice to hear that piece of the puzzle, that background.
Yeah, I also I teach a lot of picture book workshops, so I talk to a lot of picture book writers, and I always hear them say that there's no one to query. I don't know who to query. Nobody wants picture book submissions, and I think to a certain extent that's true. I think to a certain extent there's also a little bit of self-sabotage there. I see writers, or not self-sabotage, self-rejection. I see so much self-rejection when I talk to writers, or they'll be I'm not going to query her because I don't know if it perfectly fits her manuscript wish list. And I feel whenever I'm talking to people like that, my mission is always just to push them to send queries anyway. So anyway, so when I hear writers say like, there's no agents who want picture book manuscripts, I just wanted to like know who to point people to be like, you're wrong. Here's who you should query.
Totally. Well, and I think more specifically too, it's like text only picture book authors. That's like an even harder needle to thread because I get it. Yeah, an author illustrator is going to be, an easier thing, for a lot of reasons. Like I understand why that is like top of the list. But yeah, text only is like even more difficult. And so it's like when anybody is open to text only, it's like, oh my God, like you can feel like a frenzy in the air, like. Anyway, can we circle back just real quick? So if you're like, okay, like this manuscript is great. Like I don't have space for it. I'm going to see if I can refer it out somewhere. What is that like in terms of a timeline? Like how long will you hold on to something, or like, will you just sort of refer it once and then you send a pass to the author, or you let them know like, hey, I sent it to so and so, or like how does that look? I guess like the logistics of that, or how long do you hold something?
Oh gosh, yeah. So. Like, according to my query manager statistics...
Which is what's informing the questions.
I respond to, like... Yeah. I don't know. I would say 95 to 99 of submissions I get within 30 days. And really, I think it's even less than that. I say it's 30 days, but really I think it's like just a couple of weeks. It's the 5% like that I dog ear that needs a second look, kind of like, okay, there's something there. I'll circle back to it when I have time. Those are the ones that can take a minute to respond to. So yeah, it's funny. It's like the longer you're in my queue, oftentimes the better, because it's something that I want to personally respond to or give a referral to, or just like read myself. So I don't know. I'll give referrals when I can. I'll let people know if I've like shared their project with someone, but most people do just get a form letter from me, but I try to respond personally when I can. I don't think that fully answered your question, but it just gives you like a little bit of insight.
Yeah, no, totally.
Structurally, maybe this gets to your nice agents or nice people, part of the ethos of KT, but like where do you see yourself as having the obligation to stay open and keep looking? Understanding what you just said around 5 queries every single year, with 1 or 2 clients, like that it's sunk career cost for you in a sense. Is it satisfying to just sort of continue to see what's out there? I shouldn't put words in your mouth, but like why it would be an easy path to focusing on your clients for you to close and stay closed until you've got an opening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's something I've been thinking about lately. Like why... Like, is this a good use of my time? Like, to sign 1 to 2 people per 5 submissions? Like, is that a good use of my time? I think it's a couple things. Number one, like, I think it is just like an exciting feeling to feel like it feels like a treasure hunt a little bit, to be like looking through things and trying to find something that could be really special. That could be my Harry Potter, my like book that, is basically my retirement fund. But I think also, like, I don't know, I think it's really discouraging to people when agents are closed to submissions. And so even just me being open to submissions, even though I'm not signing many people, I like to think that it just kind of like, I don't know, gives a little bit of hope. Like it's one more desk that's open for that could be a possibility. I don't know if writers actually feel that way or not, but I don't know. Someday I'll have to close because I won't be able to be open for forever. But I don't know. Whenever I do close, I just get so many messages of people asking me when I'm going to open back up.
Oh, yeah.
So that is a lot of work too, to respond to those messages. I should just not respond to those messages, but I don't know. I have a hard time not responding to.
So you leave your front door open, but you're clear with everybody that comes in that there's only ketchup in the fridge. Like, come in here if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is something I do think about is like just at what point do I close and lock the door? I don't know.
I'm also wondering, because I mean, it's gotta take, that's like a lot of time and energy on your part, to even go through those submissions, whether or not you're signing or not. So like, you must have, I mean, I'm sure all agents do, all editors, whatever you have. Hello. You must have like a strategy, or like maybe you look at the query and you're just like, okay, I know this isn't for me already, or vice versa. Maybe you look at the first spread, same thing. Like, is that something you do? Like, can you look at the opening of a story and just be like, I don't know, like I gotta pass. Like, your time is so limited.
Yeah, I think people would be surprised to see how many of my decisions are made at the query stage, and even sometimes the first paragraph of the query. Like, I can just very quickly kind of crank through submissions that way. I mean, especially when it comes to picture books, because picture books are so much like the concept is everything. And obviously I want to see good writing, but if it doesn't feel like this lightning in a bottle idea, then I'm just going to quickly pass on it. So yeah, I can pretty quickly kind of crank through queries just based off of the query letter.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you're saying, you would have to, right? You'd have to have a sense of what it is you're looking for. Because I mean, I feel like how would you be able to agent otherwise if you if you're actually going through and like reading all of these and then trying to make, like a decision. It feels like whack-a-mole. Like you're just like, oh my God.
Oh,
like,
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is all to say, like, not to characterize this as sunk cost on your part, because you are looking for something that's magical, and there is a potential there in every query that you read. And also, continue to get the sense for where people's heads are and what people are writing these days. To your point around sort of dangling a carrot, I don't know what the euphemism is, but being that positive light for the industry. I mean, Brenna and I can't speak for Brenna and how she feels about this necessarily, but we've both queried you, and I feel like I've reflected that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very memorable queries.
I was just at a
Yeah, right. You must have remembered us.
I was at an SCBWI conference this weekend, and so many people came up to me, and the first thing out of their mouths were, "So you recently rejected me," and I'm not. You recently crushed my dreams.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just like, you would think I would know how to respond at this point, but it's just like, I'm sorry, it's not personal. It's a numbers thing.
I'm not here to confirm. No worries. But what I'm trying to suggest is, I think of you and our friend Jennifer March Soloway in the same sort of way. You both stay open, and you both, if you're not responding personally to each individual query, which is impossible to do, you're at least sort of like outwardly reflecting on your experiences on social media, which I think is a really sort of valuable practice that shows that you're being really introspective about what you receive.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying my name in the same breath as Jennifer March Soloway, because she's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Well, you both have the same vibe where you're both very present. Like, I don't get the sense that, like, you're just sort of like whipping through queries and being like, no, like, yes, you're doing them quickly, but you're being thoughtful about them. And like, your newsletter is like super insightful and really helpful. The way that you are on Twitter and sort of like transparent and open about like what it is you're doing and what you're thinking is really helpful. Even if you can't sign people very often or whatever, it's helpful to have like a voice on the other end being like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and like, I'm sorry if it's, not personalized or whatever, but like, just so you know, which I feel like is why people are so drawn to you and want to query you, and that's where you get 5,000. So maybe it's like, like a vicious cycle, but yeah, I feel like it's, you're both like super helpful.
You'd probably still get as many queries if you weren't as chill and didn't have as good vibes, because that's just, see somebody who's open and they'll, anyway, it's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay, can we talk about fulls really quick? So there's been a lot of discussion about being ghosted on a full lately, just on Twitter and Discord and just wherever, different conversations. So I guess my question is, like, for you specifically, so how do you handle a full? If you request to see more, like, how many manuscripts do you expect? And do you want them from different genres? Like, is that something you look for? And then also, like, what does your response time look like? You ever ghosted anyone on a full? Or why would somebody, if you have any insight on that, just any kind of insight, because I feel like it's such an ominous thing. Like, you're so excited, I got this full, and then you're just like waiting, sort of indefinitely.
Yeah. So I respond to every submission I receive. And however, when it comes to a full manuscript, it can often take me a long time, like a long time. I have some full manuscripts from almost a year ago, which I know is just awful, but they take so long to read. I try not to let them take that long. I try to respond within a few months, but sometimes it just stacks up. I only kind of request a full manuscript maybe once or twice a month, so I try not to like bite off more than I can chew. But I do ultimately respond at some point. It just takes me a while.
So just a quick follow-up. So I'm just sort of following this line of thought. Say it's a picture book manuscript and you ask for a full. So that's like several other.
Oh, picture books are different. Picture books don't take me that long. I'm talking about like, I also represent, gosh, can you imagine waiting a year for a picture book?
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Why? Does
Why?
it take that long?
You very gently pushed on
No, that would be awful. It's so funny. And it's so funny because I always get so frustrated when editors take a long time to respond to a picture book because it's like, you could have read this on the toilet. You could have read this in line at the grocery store. Picture books take literally 4 minutes to read. No, I'm talking about adult fiction.
Okay.
You know, it's going to take me 15 to 20 hours to read, like that type of thing. Yeah, because I am expanding my list in that space right now. Like in the adult fiction space, I'm looking for rom-coms and thrillers and like book club fiction and a little bit of like lightly speculative stuff, which, you know, has a longer word count. No, picture books respond to very quickly.
So if it's a full picture book request, what does that look like? Like, what is the turnaround for that generally?
It depends, but I would say usually I'm able to respond within a few weeks.
Oh, that's really quick because I feel like across the board, I've heard like anything from a couple of weeks, which is amazing. That's like super fast, to like the standard from what I've heard is like 4 to 6 months. And then you wait like months to even nudge. And then you're just like, hoping like, can we move this along? Like, so yeah.
And I'm just to get in your head on that consideration, because a lot of the people that listen to this are primarily picture book authors. What are you looking for, or how do you evaluate? You guys are both taking very considered coffee sips or whatever is in your mug sips right now. Very, very thoughtful. What are you thinking? And I'm sure it's some aspect of all the above, but thinking in terms of, is this somebody that I can relate to for their entire career? Are there works in this that I know I could sell quickly? How does this balance with the rest of my client roster? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely, for picture book creators, I definitely want to connect with their body of work as a whole. Because I see a lot of great like one-off projects, but I mean, it's a long-term relationship. So I don't want to work on just one great book with someone. I want to work with them for the rest of their career. So I need to see a lot of great ideas, not just one. And I mean, I guess like for picture book creators, I'm also just like, because my roster is so full, I'm so picky. Like they would have to be the next just huge thing. Like I would really have to believe this book is going to like become a New York Times bestseller. Like, this book is going to be huge. Like I would have to have that belief at this point to sign a picture book writer. Because in that space, I'm like mostly focused on author illustrators. So to find a picture book writer, I would have to like have that, this is going to be huge feeling, which I don't see very often.
Yeah, it's hard, especially considering how saturated the market is, to envision much. I mean, there are rare, beautiful, award-winning picture books that don't become these gigantic commercial successes. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's time for a little mid-episode break for some reviews and a couple of auxiliary supporting comments and links and reminders. I'm going to make this short and sweet. Brenna's review for this week is for Gravity is Bringing Me Down. Again, a new one for me by Wendelin van Draanen, illustrated by Cornelia Lee. And these are Brenna's words. As a rock climber who often experiences what we call low gravity days, which I am fascinated to learn what that means, I sympathized with the main character's fight against gravity while applauding Wendelin's brilliant idea to mix science with the kid-friendly topic of being clumsy. The bright, bubbly illustrations are the cherry on top. That's Gravity is Bringing Me Down by Wendelin van Draanen and illustrated by Cornelia Lee. John's review this week is for Carol Gordon Ekster's Some Daddies, illustrated by Javiera McLean Alvarez. A heartfelt celebration of fatherhood in all its diverse, delightful, and sometimes zany forms. This book reminds us all that every dad is unique, from their looks to their jobs to the ways they show love. It's all different and it's all beautiful, and we are back to our rating, 5 funny face snuggles out of 5. And finally, my review for this week is hopeful. As I record this on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which rarely coincides this year with Inauguration Day, in 25, the 2017 picture book Most People by Michael Hanna and illustrated by J.E. Morris is especially resonant. And I do wonder what went into this picture book's birth, considering the state of the world and our collective goodwill in the year 2017 when this came out. But this book itself is a tribute to just being nice. It's a simple reminder that most people, however they're influenced by the world around them and their ideologies and whatever they believe in, whatever their set of peers, most people really do want to be good, nice, and decent. And it's also a reminder that people out there in the world who scare us are a drop in the bucket compared to the ocean of kindness that we swim in. Some days it's hard to keep that reality in mind, but this book helps. I hope you are enjoying this conversation that we're having with Adria. We are in the middle of it. There's a bit to go, and it's the best is yet to come, I dare say. But if you would like to continue to support the podcast, speaking of the best is yet to come, visit us at verse.show or go to our Linktree at linktree.com/verseshow, where you can find links to all the episodes, links to find merch, and to get a shout out. Find us there, and you'll find links to our socials as well. Again, I really hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. And now back to our conversation with Adria Goetz.
Yeah, right. And I mean, that's another consideration too, like, what you consider, like, the next big book or idea or whatever, like what does that success look like? Or, the next big author, like, they write across all genres and those are all amazing. Or like you're saying, like New York Times bestseller or, author illustrator or whatever. So I feel like it just is really specific and it changes from every author to agent to editor, like what exactly.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's just so many variables, that are like possible. What would I'm just thinking about, so like, what if somebody sends you this, this picture book manuscript that is like amazing and it totally fits with like everything that you love, and then their full comes across and you're just like, like this doesn't have, these are not at all like the voice that caught my attention. Like this is different. This is like a whole different genre. Like I wasn't expecting, any of this. If that book is like, if that one is that good, would you, or have you signed an author based on that one? And then you're willing to work with them going further on like developing more of those, or like, what is your thought? Like if something comes across that is so vastly different from the rest of the stuff that they have.
I probably would not sign them, to be honest, because that just feels like a lot of work.
You could make me a bunch of money
That's
one
fair.
time.
Yeah. That just sounds like it would be setting us up for both of us up for disappointment. Because I hate telling clients no. I hate when a client sends me a manuscript and I have to be like, I don't think we should shop this. I don't think we should work on this. Like that's not a great feeling. And so I really need to feel like this person is bubbling with ideas and they're just like an idea factory. Like that's the client I love to work with. Although, idea factories, I also have to like rein them in and be like, we can't work on 8 picture books at once. So like either way, there's coaching. But yeah, I think if someone just had one amazing project and the other ones weren't as amazing, I probably wouldn't sign them.
So this, yeah. This makes me curious about how you think about working with the clients that you do have, and what sorts of communication are you expecting? What kind of throughput? Like when you sit down and have the call with a prospective client, what expectations are you setting for them and the work that they produce and how you will work together with them?
Yeah, so I tell clients that like when it's time to work on a new project, what I love, like my ideal workflow, is when they send me a list of story ideas that they have floating around in their mind. Like the more, the merrier. You could send me 20 ideas if you want. And then I will pick the one that I feel like is the right fit. And sometimes I'll give a few notes, like, you don't take it in this direction. That's already been done, but like take it in this direction. And then I want to see the manuscript when it's polished. So I want them to write it. I want them to self-edit it. I want them to bring it to a critique group or critique partners and really get it to a good place. So by the time it's on my desk, it's like developed and polished, at least to their, like in their mind, it's it's polished. It's never actually going to be as polished as you think it is. And then we'll, I'll get in the weeds editorially and put together notes, and we'll do line edits, and we'll kind of ping pong it back and forth until we feel it's ready to share with editors. But like, right now we just need this like sparklingly perfect level of polish right now in order to compete, because it's just such a competitive market. Like, I've never seen it so tough. And a lot of editors have started doing like revise and resubmits, almost like an additional step in their general acquisitions process. And so if I can be shopping projects that are already very, very polished and kind of like take that extra step away to speed things up, then I'm going to do that.
Do you make a conscious expectation with your clients to do a lot of the editing on their end with their critique partners and beyond, just to sort of increase your own throughput, kind of, if that's a fair question? Like, we've talked to some other agents who are more editorial in nature, and we'll really want to mix it up. Like, send me something that's raw, we'll go through it together, we'll talk about the merits, and it sounds like you're more heavily involved in the idea stage and the polishing and the submitting stage.
I mean, I definitely consider myself an editorial agent, and I think all of my clients would say that as well. I just don't want them to send me sloppy first drafts. I feel like that it can kind of feel disrespectful sometimes to get a draft that is just too messy and too early in the process. Like, I want them to send me something when it's good and when it's developed. And I love giving editorial feedback. I love like helping develop a project, but I want them to have a healthy respect for my time.
Like, take it as far as you can feel like you can take it until you need a different perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you feel like, just circling back to the like additional step of the R&R, from the editor's perspective, do you feel like that's a new thing that they're adding because they are also really saturated and just are looking for like the best of the best before they can sign something? Or why do you think that's a new like a thing? Because I feel like I've heard more often than not that people are like, like, I heard back, yay, but it's an R&R or whatever, because we're not, like, a lot of people just aren't even hearing anything. It's just like crickets across the board because people are just slammed.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think it's any one thing. I think sometimes sometimes editors want to see how well an author is able to edit and revise, because sometimes you like think something is an easy fix and then it's not. I hope nobody gets mad at me for saying this, but sometimes I think that younger editors do it kind of just to gain experience, and they might not actually have the intention of acquiring a project, but they want to kind of give notes and see how it goes.
Less like a power flex, but more like
interesting. Yeah.
I want to flex this skill set that I'm developing, kind of.
Yeah. And I think it's harder to get a sales team on board, like, because the market is so saturated. So if you can just like present this perfect project right away, then I think it's probably easier to get the green light to make an offer. But I don't really know. I would love to hear an editor's perspective on this, because when I first started agenting in 2000, it wasn't really a thing that we saw very often. Or if it did, it was like this like exciting novelty experience. Like, oh, we're getting a chance, like a second chance.
Totally.
And now it's like, oh my gosh, I get a R&R request all the time, and it's so draining, and they don't always pan out. I would say like there's like I found it to be like a 50-50 thing. 50% of the time it does result in an offer, and 50% of the time it doesn't. So, yeah. Yeah, and I was going to say too, like, it feels more like, until recently, it felt like that was more of a thing that agents would do, before they were to sign somebody, as a way to sort of see like, okay, can we work together? Like, what is this going to be like to go back and forth? Like, almost like a practice, like, okay, cool. Like, I really like this manuscript, but like, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And like, not to say that like those changes weren't realistic or they weren't actually thinking about that vision, but it felt like a way to sort of vet people in terms of like communication style and editorial stuff, and just like, where's your line? What are you going to push back on? But with an editor, it seems like, well, what is the point in that? Like, it's not the same motivation, obviously, because this isn't, I mean, this is just one book, right? It's not like a whole career thing. So it's like, get in and get out. Like, you like this project, let's do this, and like move on to the next thing, instead of like, drawing it out, all this like energy, and just, anyways, it's an interesting. Yeah, I definitely understand why agents would do it, to kind of like put a feel out for how someone communicates, because like when you hop on a call with someone, like as an agent, they're a writer writer, you're interested in their work. Like, everyone can be kind of warm and friendly and charming over
your best face forward for
the
sure.
phone or over Zoom, but but 99% of your working relationship with someone is going to be over email. And so getting a sense for their email style, and are they sending you long blocks of text emails? Are they gonna follow up if they haven't heard back from you in 2 days or less than that? Are they going to like pepper you with questions? Like, those are all good things to suss out before you sign someone. So I understand why agents do it, but editors, I mean, during the R&R process, they very rarely have contact with the writer. Like, sometimes we'll do a call to go over some like notes, but mostly the communication is done through the agent. So it doesn't make as much sense to me.
Yeah, right. You're like, please stop. Just can I just move forward?
How do you,
But if any editors are listening, I love you all, and I respect you, and you should buy my books.
I'm glad you say that, which obviously is it's flippant, but like, you build personal relationships with editors. Right. Like, after having been in the business for 8 years, you know what people presumably are looking for and have a much higher rate of being able to hit their list based on previous interactions, even if they haven't bought your stuff before. You feel like, at this point, you can go to certain people for certain things. I wonder, absolutely. Are those the sorts of conversations, like when you're ready to sub something of one of your clients, or those the sorts of conversations you're having in terms of building lists? I know this person at whatever house generally accepts this sort of thing. Here's the sensibility of this editor. Is that the submission strategy conversation that you have?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have so many notes. I know who likes what type of art style. I know who likes certain types of humor. I have like a no potty humor list of editors. Like, okay, this editor is okay with poop jokes. This editor is not okay with poop jokes. I just like, I have a whole database of all the interests, and I know likes, specific types of animals. It's like those, those crime shows where you like have all like the pins on the board and the pictures. It's like, I have that, but it's with editor
picture in your
interests.
mind, listening audience, red yarn on the wall behind Adria in this call. That's what it's,
Yes, red yarn, push pins,
Yeah. So you touched on this a little bit, but can we circle back quick to, like, if you are on a call with an author, like, I guess, so being on the other side of this question, generally when I hear that somebody has the call or, you're meeting with an agent, presumably we're all like, yay, like, this is it, it's over, it's done. Like, if you've made it to the call stage, it's pretty much a shoo-in. Because, like, what you're saying, like, you can be really charming, like, sweet and whatever over a Zoom chat, whereas the real work is done in an email. So I guess my actual question is, like, how do you, once you've decided, like, this author's stuff and you want to move forward, what does your vetting process look like? And, like, once you make it to the call, is that a correct assumption? Like, you are mostly, like, ready to sign them? Or is there something that could come across in the call that you're like, ooh, it wasn't a good fit? Like,
this is just a call.
I'm going to go in another direction. Yeah.
I mean, I would say 99% of the time, if I'm having a call with someone, it's going to be to offer representation.
Yeah.
However, there is that 1% of the time where I see some sort of red flag pop up, or there's something that gives me pause. And then at that point, the call kind of pivots and it's like, okay, well, I need time to think about it, and, I'll get back to you, like that type of thing. But I always go into those calls with the assumption and expectation that I'm going to make an offer. But sometimes little things pop up.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I guess also, like, I'm wondering sort of like, because, authors have we have a whole list. There's like whole websites and blog posts dedicated to, like, what do you ask on the call? Like, what should you say? But from an agent standpoint, like, do you have certain things that you ask, or that you, like, bullet points that you hit that you also want to, like, like sort of check with an author on, or like, before you make that final decision? Yeah.
I like to ask kind of like what their expectations are for working with a literary agent, like what their career goals are. If I get the sense that someone is going to be just wildly disappointed by publishing, I don't know, I don't want to get into like too many specifics because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings if anyone listens to this. Yeah. But I don't know, sometimes little things pop up where it's like, oh, I think I would disappoint them, or I think publishing is going. I mean, publishing disappoints
for
everyone,
many different ways. Yeah.
I think very few people like like walk away.
Totally.
Very few people just like have like the dream experience, but yeah, I do have little things that I ask for just to kind of get a sense and to get a sense of if we're going to be compatible or if the person's going to be difficult to work with. I'm usually able to kind of suss that out.
Yeah, that's fair.
So what's your current client roster like? Like who makes up your client list? I know you've said you're sort of expanding your categories, but how do you sort of thoughtfully assess where you stand?
Yeah, so I have about 50 clients, and most of them are picture book creators, whether that be picture book writers or author illustrators. I have some clients who do, like a couple clients who do middle grade, and then kind of a couple clients who do adult fiction, but the vast majority are picture book creators. Yeah.
Do most of your picture book creators also write in other genres, or you're saying picture book specific?
Some do. Some are interested in kind of exploring like chapter books or middle grade or older. But I mean, most of them I think are just kind of pretty excited about picture books right now.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that makes sense why you only
for
sign
sure.
one or two a year.
I mean, is
the most?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picture book writers keep me busy.
Yeah.
Do you ever urge people to explore other genres, either to slow them down in their throughput or get them to sort of like be marketable in different areas? I mean, we've had other conversations where that's an intentional choice to branch out into different age categories so that you can sell differently or sell more, be published in different ways.
So sometimes I would say more often than not, I don't encourage people to go older just because the jump from writing a picture book to writing like a middle grade novel is huge. And I don't want to tell someone to write an entire novel if they're going to send it to me and I'm going to be like,
I don't know.
I can't sell this. I mean, like writing a novel is such a different skill set than writing a picture book manuscript. But I would say I often will encourage novel writers to write picture books. If there's some specific idea that I think makes sense for them, or if I feel like their writing style would work in the picture book space, just because that's a much different ask to be like, well, you write a 500-word manuscript. So I've done that with a couple clients.
Novel writers, stay in your lanes. Yeah. Stay out of our territory. We're specialists.
Yeah, right. We have plenty
that is interesting.
Already, so just...
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I hold them to the same standard. Like, if a novel writer sends me a picture book and it's like, oh, no.
You don't understand how this works.
You need to read more picture books. You need to, like, study this format, you know.
It's like 4,000 words. You're like, I know this is short for you, but this will not do.
Yeah, exactly.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, your advice certainly works for me because I cannot bring myself to write things that are longer than 500 to 700 words.
Yeah.
But you're right. Thinking about even the jump from picture books to chapter books, for instance, it's a completely different mindset. It's a similar age category, but you're writing a totally different way with an independent reader in mind. And what occurs to me to bring up and talk through is, you have to study that bit of craft and you have to study that category specifically before you can feel like you can write in that category. So I guess the advice is be ready to write in that category and be a student of it before you make the jump.
Yeah. I get picture book submissions all the time from people who clearly like haven't studied the craft or haven't been involved in like SCBWI or 12 by 12. Like when I see those on a query letter, like I'm involved in SCBWI and 12 by 12 or, you know, whatever it may be, I automatically know that it's going to be a more polished submission than someone who isn't involved in those types of organizations.
That's interesting. Yeah. Cause I feel like everybody is trying to like get a leg up or sort of like put in, make sure the bio like speaks to your writing experience and like what you're actually doing and, you know, whatever. But I feel like so many of us are involved in SCBWI or 12 by 12 that it's sort of like a staple. Like everybody just has that. But it's interesting to hear from the agent's point of view. Okay, great. No, you do have that. And so I'm expecting to see something more polished as opposed to somebody who doesn't have any of that. Maybe they write nonfiction and they're like, oh, well, I came from this space and I thought I could write this nonfiction for picture books, but I don't have any actual experience or practice doing it. So that puts it in a different light for sure.
Interesting that it's almost like an industry association, like some letters after your name. It implies credentials.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's almost like white noise at this point too, because like almost everybody is like, yep, SCBW 12 by 12. You know, like those are like...
I've never done 12 by 12. I have
However, there
all
are
the respect to Julie.
That don't.
It's too much throughput for me. So you'll never see that in my query letter.
Yeah.
I ran into Julie the other day at CBWI's Marvelous Midwest conference, and she was just there as a writer.
Yeah.
So like she wasn't like on faculty or anything, so I didn't know she was going to be there. And I like saw her from across the hall, and I like screamed her name. I was like, Julie Headland, like what? You know, it's just so funny because, like, in the picture book space, it's like she's a celebrity to me.
It's celebrities.
So that was
very
exciting.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
At each other. It is funny though.
Yeah,
when we were talking about arms from editors, it made me think of the conversation that we had with her about her nonfiction book, the details of which I'm gonna forget. It's another Julie. Oh my gosh, Brenna, help me out. Julie Andrews biography. The anecdote that she had about the number of hoops that she had to go through with different editors, writing and rewriting so many different times.
Oh yeah,
feels maddening and not worth all. Well, yeah. I mean, worth the effort in the sense that she got a really good picture book out of it, but it sure was a lot of work. That totally. if you're not going to take it like it is and it's polished, just years, or just pass on it.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe they just really wanted a Julie Andrews book and they got one. I'm just checking the time, so we're getting close to the hour. But I wanted to say, number one, thank you so much for coming on. Like, you've been so generous with your time and so thoughtful with your answers. Like, we really appreciate getting to chat with an agent because, it just sheds so much light from the other side of the querying and submissions and all of it. And then also, is there anything that we missed or anything that you want to like shout out before we go?
I'm trying to think. My brain is like fried. I was up until like 3 a.m. last night listening to the I went to a Tortured Poets Department album release party with my sisters, and
awesome.
we were up late listening to that. What should I shout out? I mean, can I shout out my Italy workshop? Is that something I can do? Yeah. Sure. So I'm really excited. I'm going to Italy again this fall to teach a week-long picture book intensive called The Art of Picture Book Writing. I taught it last summer and it was like the best week of my life. But I'm really excited about it. It's hosted at this beautiful old like 1,000-year-old monastery, and the classroom where I teach workshops every day is like this old stone wine and cheese cellar. It's beautiful. Oh, but it's just this really amazing opportunity to like have an hour-long workshop every day where you learn about picture books and the market and the craft and all that. And then we do like critique time every day. Everyone brings 3 picture book manuscripts that we edit. And then we go on these little excursions through to these little villages in Tuscany. It's like amazing. And I meet with everyone one-on-one to give kind of consultations. And it's just the best magical experience. So
I'm excited,
really
for you as well. I have not been to Italy.
Amazing,
15 years, and it sounds absolutely incredible to go to Italy and then just focus on writing picture books and probably eating pasta and drinking wine for an entire week.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Yes, right. Definitely.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, if you need like a live stream podcast or something, Josh and
your
I are
media partners
to come along.
What sounds good?
Understanding that this is going to come out in a couple of months. What client books should we be on the lookout for?
Oh my gosh, MILLIE FLEUR'S Poison Garden by Christy Mandin.
That looks so fun. I've seen that come across whatever social media feed. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, it's about this like Wednesday Addams-y type of girl that has this like quote unquote poisonous carnivorous garden that her community like just thinks is a disgrace, and it's just about like embracing your weirdness and marching to the beat of your own drum, and the illustrations are like to die for. So I'm really excited about that one. I'm also really excited about In the Groves by Andrea Cruz Floren, and it's inspired by her childhood, this caretaker of orange groves in California, and when she would like go to visit him on like family trips, he would take her to Disneyland and theme parks and the beach and like all these cool places. But what she really wanted to see was the orange groves where he worked, but he just didn't want her to see them. But she heard all these like stories about what would happen there, and like her cousins would work there and have tales. And so this story is basically like imagining all of the magical things that like could have happened in these orange groves if she'd gone as a girl. And the illustrations are also to die for and just like so magical and fun. So I'm really excited about those two.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, we'll link them in the show notes so people can
awesome.
Look for all that.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you again for coming on. This has been
thank
amazing.
you for having me.
Thanks for listening this week.
Find all of our episodes and other associated links and information at linktree.com/verseshow.
Or reach out to us on Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see you next verse.
Bye!